What we're going to be talking about today is enabling your customers to be successful and why that is so critically important if you're in the business of selling platforms, like you guys are with selling the orchestrated customer engagement idea. Now, let's make a deal. Most people, when they're listening to a presentation, want the answer. Give me the payday, give me exactly what it is this is going to cover. And I prefer to get there through telling a story. So why don't we split the difference and let's just start off by talking about what we're going to cover and what I'm going to tell you. So here are the three things that I'm going to tell you. Thing number one, productitis is a disease that's preventing most B2B companies from thriving. Number two, executives do not want to buy. No, they don't want to buy. What they want are partners in success. How can you help them? That's my challenge, is to ask you to help them be successful. Point number three that I'm going to share with you is that the vendors who help executives envision success before they get into solutioning will be the big winners in this new economy. There you have it. That's what we're going to cover. So now let's go into the storytelling part. In order to understand what's going on and the value of a platform, what we have to do is really understand what's going on in the economy today. So section number one, chapter number one of our story is we are in the digital experience economy. So what does that mean? Probably the best way to start out with that is I want you to imagine it's New York City, 1869. Now, trust me, there's a direct connection here. Just suspend. Let me tell a story, please. So I want you to imagine that, and I want you to imagine what it's like. It's in 1869. It's only 5 years removed away from the Civil War. Imagine this spirit that is taking over America, particularly in New York City at the time. In 1869, they completed the transcontinental railway system, so a train could go now from San Francisco all the way to New York City. That had never have happened or had been done before. So there's this spirit of anything is possible. The invention, the new business, the thriving, the second wave of the Industrial Revolution has really taken root, and the heartbeat of it is in New York City. And New York City, as you know, is a series of interconnected islands. And at that time, the Hudson River is the one that separates Manhattan from Brooklyn, and among other things. And there was no bridge over the Hudson. They were using ferries. So along came a man named John Roebling. John Roebling had this amazing idea that he was going to use iron and all of these new technologies and new inventions to actually build a bridge to connect Brooklyn to New York City, which was unheard of at the time. Now we know how things turned out because we see this today. This landmark, the Brooklyn Bridge, which is an amazing way to connect from the old to the new. It's an amazing connection to tie from what's possible to making things happen. But there's a long story and very interesting story behind this bridge itself. So in 1870 is when they started construction. And one of the things that they had to do in order to build this bridge was to develop these things that are called caissons. Now, what's a caisson? A caisson is really, because what they had to do is they had to lay concrete down to establish the foundation of the main parts of the bridge on the bedrock that rests at the bottom of the Hudson River. So they built these caissons, which were basically tubes that they put down into the river, and they pumped out all the water. And then they lowered workers in there to go lay the concrete and start building the foundation. It seems pretty straightforward, right? Well, guess what happened? They ran into some problems. The problems that they ran into were the first wave of workers got sick, and some of them started dying. So what was the conclusion of the production team, the project managers? Well, they concluded, you know what? That's the problem with the Irish. We just can't have Irish working in this. In this, it's just too hard. So they brought in the Germans, the German immigrants, and hired them to work on it. And sure enough, the German immigrants got sick, and many of them died. Okay, well, it's clearly not the Irish or not the Germans. We've learned by building these transcontinental railroads that the Chinese are really, really hard workers. So they literally railroaded in Chinese from California to work on these caissons. They got sick too. Now, what did it take for people to investigate what was really going on? Washington Roebling, who is John Roebling's son, wanted to show, I'll show you guys how to work because I'm of the right upbringing. I went to a well thought out school. I've got the spirit and the blood of a patriot inside me. I'm going to go down and show these people how it's done. And Washington Roebling got so sick, he almost died, supervised the rest of the construction from his bed. So that caused everybody to get pause and say, maybe we should bring in some doctors or some other people to help figure out what was going on. What was going on? What was the problem? What was causing all these people to get sick and die? What do you think it was? No, it wasn't COVID. That's funny. What the real answer is that what we now know as the bends is what the problem was. It's decompression sickness, what was called caissons disease. That's what was happening. So what does that story have anything to do with today? Well, here we are in 2019, and the setting here is Dallas. And this is a company that has a broad portfolio of products and services that they're weaving together into an integrated platform to help the transportation industry manage and coordinate and orchestrate the variety of resources that they have available. We used in this engagement, we used the Brooklyn Bridge story and the fact that you guys are innovating. No one's ever built an integrated platform like this before. You're going to run into some unknown unknowns. And here's our initial kickoff. And what's happening here in this meeting is that a variety of people together, we pulled together a cross-functional team, a variety of people together are here. And their assignment is to show what does the world look like from the customer's perspective. The assignment is actually to build a value map. That's me right there. My job is to play the role of the customer and to ask simple questions like, well, after this happens, what happens to the product? What happens to the shipment? And one of the things that was so interesting here, hopefully you can read the body language is very uncomfortable. It was incredibly, incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for this group of people to answer some simple questions. Like, once the package comes into the warehouse, what physically happens to it after it gets loaded onto the truck? What happens? So you might think that, oh, of course they should know it, but it's not an easy question when you're so focused on the way that you see the world and what you have. So the point then is, why am I sharing this? What does it matter? Well, the same kind of challenge that we run into today is where we're throwing a lot of energy, a lot of effort. We're throwing more Irish at it. We're throwing more Germans at it. We're throwing more Chinese immigrants at it. We're throwing more resources at it. And it's just not working, is the level of effort that we're having to communicate value to our customers. And really that, instead of calling it the bends, it's the phenomenon that exists called productitis. Now, how do you know if you have productitis? Well, let's do a simple check yourself. When you think about how you would even envision what's valuable in the first place, do you think about, I'm focusing on selling a product, or am I focusing on selling an outcome? When you think about the kinds of things that you need to learn, are you concentrating on the breadth of all of the capabilities inside your company, or are you really concerned about the features and functions of individual products? When you worry about how to get a barometer of how well you're doing or how differentiated or valuable you are to a customer, are you worried about stacking up against your competitors? Or are you worried about the wallet owners, the people with the money, and how they think about what it is that you're doing? Do you concentrate when you want to quantify or provide tangible benefit statements? Do you concentrate on the benefits of what your product can do? Or do you talk about the measurable results other clients have been able to achieve by working with you? Do you concentrate on specific use cases to show the functionality of an individual product when you're trying to make the value come to life? Or do you concentrate on business scenarios, situations that your customers, your executives can easily relate to? When you think about how you're going to prove the value, do you say, let's do a demo and show you how it works? Or do you talk about the benefit realization over time? I'll let you score that for a minute and think about it. So to what degree you have productitis, we'll let you sit with yourself. But let's move on to sort of the second point, which is customers need help being successful. Why do they need help being successful? Well, they've never built the Brooklyn Bridge before. We got to figure it out with them. They've never done orchestrated customer engagement before. So we have to help them. So let's talk about what do customers find valuable in working with sellers in the first place. To put that into a frame of reference, one of the things that my company has done in the past is a variety of executive studies. These are the decision makers, and the number one question that I always want to know is, so what makes the interaction with a seller valuable in the first place? So here's the data from executives, buyers. The salesperson clearly shows they understand my business issues and can clearly articulate to me how to solve them. That doesn't sound like rocket science, does it? The thing that makes it rocket science, though, is how complex the world is becoming and how rapidly the change is happening around us. So let's ask then this question. How often does it happen? So those same executives, the man represents business executives, the woman represents IT executives. We ask them, how often does it happen? In other words, in your daily interactions with sales executives, from all the people, like how many people are calling on the CIO or business executives' doors? So if you think about the hundreds of vendors that are trying to call on these people each year, how many and how often do the sales relationships match to that description before? How often do they understand the business value and can relate to connect the dots between adding value? What's the number? What do you think the number is? Is it 30%? Is it 50%? Is it 80% that they find valuable? Well, the business executives find about 11% of the sellers valuable, and the IT executives 13% valuable. So clearly, we could look at this one of two ways. Either as a sales profession or people who are supporting sellers, we're not doing a good job of preparing people the right way, or we have a huge opportunity to just not be one of these people and be something different. Be one of these people instead of be something different. Okay. So the other thing to think about then is, so when does an executive engage with suppliers along their journey? And this is one of the things that's really interesting. A lot has been said about business executives are 67%, 37%, some percentage of the way through a buying process before they engage with salespeople. But that's just really ridiculous. If you think about it, there's only two reasons that an executive is going to reach out and talk to a salesperson. Reason number one, they have a problem that you're just trying to figure out that's over the left. Reason number two, they have a clear idea of what they want, and they're just going to go try to find somebody to fix, somebody to help them. Now, what's interesting is if you plot this out over a decision-making life cycle, when a business executive is going to make a decision to buy, some interesting things happen. The people, the vendors that engage with the executive and help them envision what success looks like, those executives pick vendors, those vendors who help them 74% of the time. Think about that. You have if you are there helping to shape the vision, your win rate is going to be 74, 75%. That is a heck of a return on your time. When you show up late, they respond to only 26%, but then they're also selecting from, it's the 26% selection of all the other people that they brought in for the cook-off as well. So the key point here is, if you want to be really differentiated today and add the most value and be one of those 11% or 13%, you want to be earlier on and helping those clients be envisioning. So we talked earlier about that quiz. The way I like to think about it is that quiz that you took is sort of the cosmopolitan fill in the survey about what kind of relationship what kind of partner am I for a potential business executive. So here's some exact feedback. These are exact quotes from the executive buyer study about their perspective of product-centric type sellers. They can't think outside their product. Don't understand how they fit into our company. Focus totally on closing a sale. Don't understand the issues, problems I'm trying to solve. Do any of those things sound like valuable? Would you, put it this way, you have bought things before. Would you find somebody who met this criteria before as somebody being valuable? No, of course not. So let's talk about, what does the other side look like? What are some of the exact direct quotes of executives on the other side? Truly concerned about finding answers and solutions that fit my needs. They learn my personality, expectations, and requirements. She acts like she's fully embedded in our organization. She exceeds our expectations every time. Now, do you think these are the people who are going to spend a lot more money and want to keep working with you and your company? Absolutely, that's the case. So the question you need to ask is, which do you want to be? Which leads us into section number 3. If you want to be more of the green, the outcome, and avoid start avoiding and overcoming productitis, we have to learn to sell what's possible. Sales is simple, simple is hard. I like this quote a lot, and translating that into what we need to do. As salespeople, our job is to make our customers heroic. We're not in the business of having the customer tell us why we're great so that they'll buy our products and services. No, our job is to help envision the world that could be. What does the world look like? What did the world look like before the Brooklyn Bridge was built? And how much did New York transform after the Brooklyn Bridge was built? For us, what does it look like to help our clients be more successful? So let's talk about some real life examples of other businesses that are moving into this platform type sale, this digital experience economy. So here's a business, Ecolabs. And if you're familiar with Ecolabs does extermination, pest extermination for, say, factories. You don't want to be in the business, for example, of having a factory and have a big infestation of any kind of varmint. The M&M's, the M&M's business, if you had an infiltration of mice, would go down massively if that were the case. But imagine what a world would look like when you have Wi-Fi enabled all of these intricate mousetraps and you're able to track what is actually happening and where it's occurring. Who do you sell that to? Why would they want to buy it? Just because you're able to put these things together, what does it look like? So your first step in selling what's possible is to create curiosity. Why might they be interested in it? What questions should they be asking that they're not asking? Because they can't envision a world of what it would look like without the Brooklyn Bridge and the like. The facts are, so much innovation has happened. We have to do a much better job of helping business people get out of their old traditional way of thinking and think differently. So step number 1 is we need to create curiosity. So let's think also about how transformative these businesses are. And let's think about Herman Miller. Herman Miller is in the business of selling office furniture. Well, at least they used to be. Today, you can get knockoff furniture from Chinese companies, IKEA, or whatnot. What they have learned to do in order to maintain their huge profit margins that they're able to achieve is they sell space optimization strategies. And instead of selling office furniture to facilities people, they're selling space optimization strategies to CFOs and to COOs who want to be much more flexible with their real estate, but also more importantly, be able to retain talent and make sure that the intellectual property workers, the knowledge workers that are so important to some of their businesses are happy. So in other words, if you're selling to a financial services company, spending $3 or $4 million on office furniture is a steal if that's going to help retain some of your talent versus the bonuses that they pay out. So these are the kinds of things that they're moving into to maximize their value. Now, given that, how in the world do you help paint a picture? You've always sold to an office, somebody who has a budget to fill in maybe a conference room. But now you have to help envision the COO why office furniture is something that would help retain talent and what that would look like and what would their office space looks like and what would that be to their corporate brand. You need to be able to paint a dramatically different vision if you're Herman Miller in order to execute that strategy. So now the third example would be your Hobsons. Hobsons is a technology company that sells a variety of software to K through 12 schools. And their primary customer base or people that they've worked with are counselors. So they sell services. What's interesting about that is their most valuable customers don't view Hobsons as a purveyor of technology. They view them as the moral imperative of our district, which is a direct quote from one of their customers. Now, I'm going to ask you to think about that for a second. First of all, how amazing would it be for your customers to call what you do the moral imperative or something equal like that? Wouldn't you be really proud of that? But the second thing then would be, how do you go and sell that and make a moral imperative actually real and tangible? So that really gets to the third part of what's possible. You have to create curiosity. You have to paint a vision, but you have to be able to plot the journey to show how everybody gets involved. How do you manage all of the different stakeholders and give everybody everything that they want? What's in it for me is what you have to navigate. So these are all the pieces of what's selling what's possible. Putting it all together, let's fast forward now into 2020 right now. It's game on. The game is, how do we go about making, bringing to life and making our customers successful? And you can get started today. So what executable insights did I share with you? One, we're in a digital economy. Everything is different. If we spend too much time learning about our products, it's a disease that prevents us from thriving. We have to overcome productitis and get into the business of successification because we have to help customers envision what's possible in the first place. The second thing is that customers want help being successful, and they'll spend time with you if that's your goal. If your goal is to not do that, you're going to be less valuable for them, and you're going to get into a productitis type conversation. And then the third thing is, in order to accomplish and be successful, learn to sell what's possible. The vendors who help executives envision what success is before solutioning will be the big winners in 2020 and moving on. Thank you very much for your time. I enjoyed it. If you would like to connect with Evie, feel free to reach out at Scott Santucci at growthenablement.com or find me on LinkedIn. And I'm open for questions now. Thank you.